This connection failed, not because it's crimped, not because it's soldered, but because that's actually the wrong argument. You know, crimped versus soldered is the debate of ages. People bring up military standards, other people bringing up a perfect resistance-free connection, and I'm here to tell you, it doesn't actually matter. At least it doesn't actually matter the way most people think. Both of these connections both rely on and start with the same thing, a solid mechanical connection. And the reason it doesn't matter is a reason nobody thinks about. But let me show you why both sides are actually right. Here's a good crimp. Compression bond, gas tight, mechanical connection. Done right, this will outlast the car. And here's a good solder joint. Mechanical connection, metallurgical bond, low resistant, solid conductive path. Done right, this will also outlast the car. So why does the internet lose their mind over this? Because both of these, I mean the good ones anyway, they require the right tools and the right skills. And many have one or the other. Now here's what actually fails. Here's what I mean. It's not particularly even, it's all stretched and splayed, and you can see that it's now got a banana curve to it, and you can kind of see that it's just not right. And that's mostly a product of a cheaper tool too. You see, solder joints can be too cold and really can't make a good metallurgical connection, or they can be so overheated to the point that the insulation is melting, the wire is now wicked solder way up the wire, and now it's brittle as heck. You see, you do it wrong, it causes problems there too. And relying on the solder for a mechanical bond isn't the right answer. And here's where it gets interesting. I've been chasing ghosts and gremlins in old cars for a very long time, but if you want my checklist on how I do it, check it out. It's in the description. And in just about every case, the failure wasn't because of a crimped or a soldered connection. It's more about what happens just after the connection. And those connections, they get vibrated to no end. They get heat cycled, they get baked, they get froze, they get rained on. All these things. And a crimp or solder connection does absolutely nothing to stop that from happening. And this right here is the transition area where flexible wire meets a rigid connection. And when a wire breaks right there at that transition, that's a fatigue break, and that's where a lot of electrical gremlins hide. And that's the kind of break that I see that causes more problems than anything else. The connector still looks like it's intact, the wire still looks like it's going to the connector, but electrically it's broken. And that can look like any number of places, like here on the headlight bulb or marker lights, or even up here on the windshield wiper motor, or even like the power wire for the HEI distributor. And it doesn't matter if the wire was crimped or soldered. When the metal fatigues and gives out, that's a problem. And if there's no strain relief on the wires, it breaks right there. So if crimp versus solder doesn't matter, what does? So there are three things. And these three things will make either method work. Or fail. The choice is yours if you choose to use them or not. The first is strain relief. Anything that takes the mechanical load off of the connection itself. That could be anything. It could be zip ties, tying it up in the harness. It could be the connector itself with a rubber plug that holds everything solidly into the connector. It could even be adhesive-lined heat shrink. It doesn't necessarily matter as long as the wire cannot pivot at that connection point. And if you're using heat shrink, it just weatherproofs the connection that much more. And it's a little hard to see on camera, but you can see the adhesive squeezing out there past the end, and that takes the mechanical flexion down just a little bit further away from the connector itself. And then go a step further. If you zip tied it here on the harness, that takes all of the load off of the connector itself. And now this doesn't have to worry about supporting the entire weight of the harness behind it. And without strain relief, it's just like our example. All the force goes right from where it's flexible to rigid and breaks. And when you ask an electrical connector to be a mechanical anchor, it does it very poorly. Just an example of intelligent wire routing. Using my Duramax here, we got connectors that go every which way. The big ones, they have a bit more ability to hold themselves, but still, they're kind of held captive in there. But this guy, he's held here, he's held down there, so that's taking the majority of the force off of the connector. This takes the last little bit, so that way this isn't getting pulled on and pulling those small wires out. Even a couple of zip ties after a firewall pass-through make the harness a lot more stable and less likely to have problems. So let's talk vibrations, because cars move around. The engine moves in its motor mounts. If you've got front subframes, they move a little bit on the rubber mounts. Unlike the Beach Boys, these are not necessarily good vibrations. When you're modifying wiring harnesses, add new circuits, making things do things that they didn't normally, you need to be aware that if you're running things from place to place, give yourself some slack and and some ability to have some vibration management at the points before and after that movement. If you're going to be using stuff on your engine, make sure that you're running those wires in a way that they can be supported from the firewall to the engine. If you're doing it anywhere else, from like the frame to the body, full frame cars, the bodies are on mounts, they move a little bit. We got to make sure things are adequately anchored on the frame and at the body, and allow for some wiggle. And as much as the OEs did this pretty well from the factory, that still leaves room for vibration and, fatigue of the materials. And sometimes those breaks happen near those joints, or if the component itself isn't adequately supported, then you see problems at those connectors. Remember, wires and the connectors are not meant to be a mechanical hold. Think of it like plumbing, though this may be a little bit extreme of an example. The crimp or the solder joint, that's the fitting right here in the middle. And if you don't support it on both ends or before and after that connection, it's just going to wiggle, fatigue, and break. It's really no different like on this horn wiring here. The connector is just meant to be a good conductor, be able to move current through the wire. It's not meant to handle the load of the wiring harness, which is why there's wire loom right there, and various strappings that keep everything anchored. So when you start seeing stuff like this, where wiring clearly used to be, or you've got hold downs like this on wire loom that are pulled out and who knows where they would have actually gone, that's a sign that there could be problems that could be brewing that you just don't see yet. I mean, these things may not seem like a big deal at the time, but that's could turn into an absolute disaster of a mess if something in there goes bad. And one way we can do this is install what's called service loops. If we're adding an auxiliary fuse panel, if you have the connector and a loop, and then it runs out to wherever it's supported, that gives things the ability to move a little bit, and it gives you the ability to maintain this down the road. If you ever have to disconnect the wire for whatever reason, you've got room to get in there and do it, as opposed to being so rigidly tight that it's nearly impossible to maintain. And I don't do those service loops near enough, and it's certainly changing in my wiring. Just remember, a little bit of support goes a long way. You could have a mediocre crimp or solder joint, but it's properly supported, it'll outlast the absolute textbook perfect crimp or solder joint that isn't supported. If it's not supported, it's going to fatigue, it's going to break, cause problems later. We don't want that. And I will openly concede, there is one point where soldering probably is a bad idea to use, and that's in those very high vibration environments. Think like cam position sensors, crank position sensors, stuff on an engine block that's going to see a lot of vibration. That is the point where the solder technically can wick up the strands of the wire and make a longer, rigid section than is absolutely necessary. That rigid section promotes a bigger point that can fail. If it's too brittle and stiff, it can't flex like it needs to. And if you're flexing something that's too hard and brittle, it's going to crack eventually. This is why we see the mill standards and various things that call out crimp only, especially in those high environment places. Now, aviation guys, don't come for me. Old cars, especially on a hobby level, and the repairs that we're making here are a very different world than airplanes that have various standards and a whole pile of safety regulations and standards that go with that. Plus, the failure mode on a car is very different than a failure mode on an airplane. But let's be honest, these things realistically don't see the level of vibration necessary to require that. However, you do you. You want to just crimp only? Great. If you want to solder, awesome. As long as it makes a perfect connection, you're good. As long as it makes a good electrical connection and is properly supported, the debate really isn't there now, is it? But it continues. And there's one thing that nobody talks about, and this is the thing that ties everything all together. And that is the thing. Both methods, done right, will outlast the car and give you years upon years of trouble-free use. Either method, done wrong or not properly supported, you're going to have problems, no matter what. And like we've been saying, the thing is that if it's done right, but done wrong 3 inches away from the connector, that's going to be the point that causes the failure, not the solder or crimp connection itself. And next time someone tells you, you should never crimp, you should always solder, remember, they're arguing about the wrong thing. And in my over 20 years of chasing electrical problems on old cars, motorcycles, ATVs, I have yet to see a single failure that could be attributed to a crimped connection or a soldered connection. It's always that it wasn't supported and just fatigues and breaks the wire. And that's on everything from headlight connections to taillight connections to every connection on the car. Fuse block connections even have failed too because they weren't, correctly anchored from the factory, or something broke and they just fatigued themselves to death. And taking the time to get everything anchored correctly is what separates a good wiring job from a terrible, crappy wiring job. Take the time to do it right and it will work the way it's supposed to every single time. And I'll openly admit, I learned a lot through experience. I've committed some of these sins myself and had to redo wiring that failed because I didn't support it. I didn't do the right things. I left the wire too tight. Things broke because I just didn't know. And understanding why something failed is the mechanically honest approach through this. We want to know why, not just that it did. It's not complicated. Check out this video over here where you can see how I track down wiring faults on my own stuff.